Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Sabbath and happy Global Youth Day. I am Kelly Sking. I will be your AY leader for this afternoon's program, and it is entitled Mental Health Roll Call. It's a part one. The part two is next week. And it's a conversation on depression, anxiety, self-harm, and relationship breakdowns. So we're going to have a lot of interesting conversation this afternoon. But before we begin, let's pray, and then we'll have our song service. So bow our heads to prayer. Dear kind and heavenly Father, thank you for your Sabbath day. Thank you for allowing us to see it, dear Lord. Thank you for those of us who are online, those of us who are coming. Dear Lord, I pray that you will bless the entire program. I pray that you will touch someone, dear Father, who is experiencing what we are going to talk about this afternoon. I pray that you would show up in our lives and allow us to show up in others' lives, dear Father. Thank you for hearing and answering our prayers, especially this one, dear Lord. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Hey, welcome to AY, and right now we're going to get into some singing that's going to bless the Lord. We're going to sing 3 hymns this afternoon. We're going to start with hymn number 531, We'll Build on the Rock. We'll build on the rock, the living rock, then Jesus, the rock of ages. So shall we abide the fearful shock when loud the tempest rages. Oh, we will build on the rock. Oh, we will build on the rock. We'll build on the rock, on the solid rock, on Christ the mighty rock. Some build on the sinking sands of life, on visions of earthly treasure. Some build on the waves of sin and strife, of fame and worldly pleasure. Sing! We will build on the rock. Oh, we will build on the rock. We'll build on the rock, on the solid rock, on Christ the mighty rock. Oh, build on the rock forever, sure, the firm and the true foundation. Its hope is the hope which shall endure, the hope of our salvation. Oh, we will build on the rock. Oh, we will build on the rock. We'll build on the rock, on the solid rock, on Christ the mighty rock. Sing the chorus again. We will build on the rock. Oh, we will build on the rock. We'll build on the rock, on the solid rock, on Christ the mighty rock. Amen. That was wonderful singing. I could actually hear you guys ringing out at home. And because we're building on the mighty rock, we will sing 522, My Hope is Built on Nothing Less. Let's go. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly lean on Jesus' name. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand. All he shall come with trumpet sound. Oh, may I then in him be found, clad in his righteousness alone, faultless to stand before the throne. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand, all other ground is sinking sand. And yes, we know that all of the ground is sinking sand. We only stand firm in Jesus, but we also know that Jesus is a shelter in the time of storm. 528, it's going to be our last song, so give it your everything. The Lord's our rock, in him we hide, a shelter in the time of storm. Secure whatever may be tide, a shelter in the time of storm. Sing out, Almighty rock, oh, in a weary land, cool and shade on the burning sand, faithful guide for the pilgrim's band, a shelter in the time of storm. A shade by day, oh, he's a shade by day, defense by night, a shelter in the time of storm. Oh, no fears alarm, no foes of fright, a shelter in the time of storm. Almighty rock, in a weary land, he's the cooling shade on the burning sand, faithful guide for the pilgrim's band, a shelter in the time of storm. Oh, the raging floods may round us be, but a shelter in the time of storm. Oh, we find in God a safe retreat, he's a shelter in the time of storm. Almighty rock, in a weary land, he's the cooling shade on the burning sand, faithful guide for the pilgrim's band, a shelter in the time of storm. Last verse, sing out. Oh, rock divine, oh, refuge there, a shelter in the time of storm. Be thou, oh, helper ever near, he's a shelter in the time of storm. Almighty rock, in a weary land, he's the cooling shade on the burning sand, faithful guide for the pilgrim's band, a shelter in the time of storm. Mighty rock, sing, mighty rock, that's right, in a weary land, he's the cooling shade on the burning sand, faithful guide for the pilgrim's band, he's a shelter in the time of storm. He's a shelter in the time of storm. One more time, God is, he's a shelter in the time of storm.
Welcome back, everyone. And for those of you who just joined, happy Sabbath, happy Global Youth Day, and welcome to this afternoon's program entitled Mental Health Roll Call. It's a conversation on depression, anxiety, self-harm, and relationship breakdown. So it's a part one, a two-part series. The next one will happen next week. And next week, we'll talk about the food, mind, and body effect as it relates to those topics. So for this afternoon's program, we want to do just what the name says, right? A mental health roll call. So just like a teacher in school says, Kelly's, that's my name, and I'll say here, we want to find out, how are you doing? Right? And no, really, how are you doing? So you just walk down the streets and you see somebody you know, or maybe in the office and work, or even in school, or maybe you answer somebody's status and you don't want to be too rude when after you tell them, send this. So you say, hey, how you going? And we say, I good, I cool, just fighting the good fight. Meanwhile, that person could be very well losing the good fight, and you will never know. So we want to find out today, how are you doing really, and what to do if you're not feeling so good mental health-wise, right? So if you're going through depressive episodes, if you have anxiety, if you self-harm, and if you're going through some relationship breakdowns. And further to that, we want to find out what to do if persons around us, our friends, our family members, our spouses, significant others, anybody we know going through those issues, right? So just let us know in the chat. We really want it to be an interactive program, although we are online. So let us know. We'll also send out a link. It's a link to a poll. You can just press the emojis and let us know how you're doing. And also, there's a question and answer segment on the link as well. So if you have any questions that you would like to ask myself or the mental health expert that we'll have later on today, you can, okay? And it would be a running link, so feel free. So in the YouTube chat, let us know how you're going. I am going pretty okay. This week was a lot, but I am really grateful that it is Sabbath, and so we get a rest, Even though the weekend might be short as Sabbath now, still. So I'm just really grateful about that. So the program will take place in a kind of podcast setting. So for those of you who don't know, a podcast is just people having meaningful conversations, and sometimes you could actually see them. So you could see some podcasts on YouTube, and then there are apps that you could listen to them too, right? And usually you could play them like when you're washing wares or doing something that doesn't need your full attention, but just halfway, so you could listen to something outside of it. But today we want your full attention, and I would have with me a little later on in a couple minutes a lady by the name of Kian Strawn John. She is a mental health professional. She's a counseling psychologist and also an author and social worker. So she's very versed in what we're going to talk about today. But before we go into that, we want to have a little game. And you could watch the game while playing the game, right? So it's a trivia. We ask persons we saw around Aruka and environs some Bible questions. Some they got correct and some they really, really didn't. So the game part of it is we want you to answer in the chat, the YouTube chat. Before they give the right answer, you type the answer in the chat, right? And if you get all, before they give the right answer, I have something for you. But you have to get all before they do, okay? So we'll go to the activity video and then we'll go to the conversation next.
So I was walking on the road and I found two random people. Right, so I was walking on the road again. My friend drove this line and I found two random people. Right, so I was walking on the road again and I found somebody else. So I was walking on the road and I found two more strangers. What's your name? Javon. Javon and? Kai. Random stranger, what's your name? Ashley. Ashley. Random stranger, this is your friend?
Very close friend.
A very what's your name? Very close friend of the random stranger.
Wow, my name is Cleo.
Random person, what's your name?
Destiny.
Destiny. Next random person, what's your name?
Natalia.
Natalia.
I'm Tanaya.
This is Tanaya, and who's this?
I'm Selena.
Alright, so you have
Ayuka.
Are you okay? So we have some questions for you, right?
Go ahead.
Why don't you get the questions? Okay. Yeah, the first question.
Is that like quiz or something?
Trivia. Yeah.
Okay.
Call it trivia. What is the name of the man that helped Jesus carry the cross?
No. Simon? No, it was called something. No, but it should ask if he had a name because I don't think he had a name.
I don't think he had a name.
No, he had a name, but it wasn't in the Bible.
Yes, it was there.
What was his name?
I am sure.
It wasn't
That his name was in the Bible.
It was two names. I was thinking. So what it was?
It wasn't Simon Peter.
It's not very good question.
Because, like, ask a very close friend there.
Can I phone the Bible? No idea.
No idea. Very close friend, you know?
Well, if I was there, I would have helped him carry the cross. But I think it could be Peter. I could be wrong. But I think it's Peter.
It was Simon. No, it was not. It was Simon. That's me. Go ahead. Do you think? Simon.
Okay, Simon. Which Simon? There are plenty Simon in the Bible.
It was for something. Simon. No. In my head, man. Cornelius or something.
Okay, here the hint. It wasn't Cornelius.
But it was something along those lines,
No, but it was Simon. Which Simon?
Oh, fine. Let me be quiet. I will just be quiet. Simon, like, what do you call it? Simon. Is he something? Peter. Is he something? Simon. Decent one. No, something like that.
Simon Peter was one of Jesus' disciples. Where again?
Nah, I don't think. I swear to Simon Peter.
You're going again?
No.
You're about to
Simon.
say
Simon. We have another question. Okay, fine. Just Simon. Just tell us.
Simon.
That was the one I was thinking about.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Simon. I put another.
But that is...
It was see something.
Okay, next question.
Okay, go ahead. Whatever.
You know the story of Samson, right?
Yes.
Okay. You know the story of Samson. Good. You're confident about that.
Kind of. Yeah.
Yes, the answer is straight.
I'm watching. Yeah, to some extent. Yeah, I'm a second guessing.
Who was the person that cut Samson's hair?
Delilah.
Very trappy woman called Delilah.
Okay.
I think she's correct.
She's correct.
It's too easy, man. What do you like, come on. Wait. Who cut Samson here? Yes. Oh, yes. Delilah. Go to this. It is Delilah. Yeah. Wait. He is fooling you. Yeah, Delilah.
Okay, so something.
Hey, Delilah. The girl, the woman. Delilah. Yes. Delilah. Oh, the Delilah. What was she What was she nothing like that. No, just say nothing. Just say my name. Sally, just say my name. Delilah. What was she from? Was she from Auntie? Wait, was she? Delilah. It was Delilah. Okay. The Philistine. Delilah. The Philistine. No, not Philistine.
That was very title.
That's not the answer. I know what the person who was with Delilah.
Delilah called for a silver.
I was no one said that. I didn't concentrate. I thought it was her.
You can find out Judges 69. Judges 69. Learn two things every year. Learn two things. First thing you learn, who carried Jesus cross? Simon.
Just so last. But it was Simon.
Simon. And who cut Samson's hair?
Silver, not Delilah. Well, it's probably trappy.
Oh, Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Amen.
As good Adventists, we should know how many brothers did Jesus have? One. Now you find an answer. One.
I'm not confident with that, but go ahead with it. Holy Spirit. One. In my heart, I feel like the Holy Spirit telling me two. Like two brothers.
Two brothers.
It's a
You
10.
have an answer. 10.
I don't know.
So you went from
I mean, I guess I close to the 12 disciples, so I just guess. I don't know.
You sure about the answer?
I guess.
One.
What? No.
Oh my gosh.
No one. Okay, one more shot. Four is the correct answer.
I might
You
be
say how
wrong.
much? 2?
I said two.
You say how much? 10?
Yeah, I might be wrong, but
Alright, so yeah, let's take the 2 and minus it from the 10 and then divide it by 2. That's? Yeah. I'm gonna have maths. Jesus had 4 brothers.
I was going to say,
going to say that. I just feel to say two. Two feel more right to me.
It's 4? 0? It's 4? I thought of one. Listen to me. I thought of one. I said, you know what? Let me let her go. She gets it on custody. I thought of one. I said I was.
4 brothers. How many of those brothers you brothers and how many brothers half brothers?
2.
Correct answer. So you have 2 half brothers.
I am not. Yes, you are guessing. I have my answer.
Was the one has half brothers? So you have 2 half brothers and 2 real brothers. Is that easy one? Was that an adventure or something?
Yes, and Pathfinder.
Lived the longest in the Bible.
I know this one. This have to be Abraham.
Oh, girl. Remember when he, you know, son had a son named Sarah, and son had a son named and Ken had a son named Ken, and Ken had a son named Mahalahi. You know, I think it's like this name. Right.
Why? Because I already have that question.
Okay, go ahead.
Let her say it. She said Methuselah.
Methuselah.
Okay, Methuselah.
It's not Enoch, huh?
No, not
Methuselah.
Methuselah. Are you capital or something? Yeah, smart. Methuselah. Now one. What Moses? Go.
I'll just give you 1 point. The longest river in the Bible was Methuselah, coming in at 969 years.
969 years. How old are you? Right, so you're multiplying now, I heard. Alright.
And we have his father, if you want that extension, we have his father, Jared, coming in at 962.
So he lived 7 years old. And the last question. If I get this question wrong, I take it back to the Adventist card, I call it church boy and they write all of that. And say, well, you're not part of the stage.
That's right.
What is the last word in the Bible?
Amen.
Alright, so
Amen.
last word in the Bible was amen.
That ain't easy, you know.
That easy?
The last
The
word
last word in the Bible?
and the last book.
And the last word in the Bible?
The end.
Wait, let's see when you finish quick.
Amen.
Right, so the last word in the Bible is?
Amen.
Alright, so this was the stranger as I found walking on the road. Her name was Ayoka and she just answered some questions for us. Alright, so let's do the last question, right?
Go ahead.
If I get this question wrong, I'll tell the last one. If I get this question wrong, I'm making sure the church board right for the letter and tell them that they no longer part of the Adventist church. What is the last word in the Bible?
Amen. Yeah, I didn't know that. But exactly, but I guessed all my answers.
Alright, so you want to have fun?
Yes, I did.
You want to learn something new?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, they shifted to random people tonight and Selena. That was the question that we had to ask them. So, thanks for talking to me. Random stranger, Javon and Kai. Alright, so thank you for engaging me random stranger. Of course. Of close friend, I feel like you should reevaluate this.
Okay, so I saw that Savion answer the most in the chat, so by default she gets the gift, guys. The others, what happened? So yeah, I'm sure you all knew it, but that's okay. Next time. So we have the lovely Kian Sean John on my right. Hi, Kian.
Hi, Khalees.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
No, really.
I guess if we're gonna get real, I had a long week, and it was mentally exhausting. But thank God for this Sabbath,
Amen.
where we can rest and we can leave behind all our cares and all the stresses of life and just focus on God. So, actually, I'm really good right now.
I'm glad to hear. So before we get into the conversation, I just want to read the Bible verse for today. It says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those of a of a crushed spirit, or save those who are crushed in spirit. And it's taken from Psalm 34:18, right? So that would be the basis through which we go through the conversation today. And so my first question, guys, remember, you could ask questions in the YouTube chat. And if you want to be anonymous, just click the link that is pinned to the YouTube chat, and there's a Q&A segment to your left, I think it is. When you click the link, you would be anonymous, right? So we won't know who asked the question. And so you could ask anytime, and we'll be constantly checking. But if you want to ask in the chat, feel free. So I have some questions here as starters. The first one is, what is the connection between God and mental health?
Lovely question. When I think of God and mental health, I always say that when it comes to us as humans, because God is our creator, he created the mind and the body, you know, it won't be wise to leave him out of the equation. A lot of times when we think of mental health, we don't fit God into that journey. We think of him as somebody far away that is only concerned with when we sin and when we don't pay our tithes and offerings, or when we don't come to Wednesday night and Sabbath services.
Right.
So we don't really connect God or invite him into our mental health journey. So I would say that definitely, because he is the one that is you know, our overall creator of our mind, he is the best person to take with you on the journey.
Right.
So like earlier when you said that I'm an expert, is like, my little secret is I say that I'm not, because I'm not God.
Right. God is the expert.
Yeah, and
right.
I always like to put God before me. Before my training, before my studies. The human mind is such a complex system, and who is better to know who you are than your creator?
I agree. Right.
Not an expert, but yes, I am a trained psychologist.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice. So it seems like everyone experiences poor mental health. Like everybody I know, including myself, at times, you know, we go through it. So is it true?
Yeah, I would say yes, that we all go through periods of poor mental health.
Periods.
Given that we are in a sinful world, it comes with the territory.
Right. And would you say more specifically in your youth, you experienced poor mental health a lot?
I won't specify by age. I would say it's just basically, as our faces differ, so does our experiences. No two persons are going to have the same experiences, because someone can be as old as 50 and have not gone through a lot of the challenges that, say, a 19-year-old may have gone through.
Right.
So I try not to categorize based on age, but basically whatever the background that you've come from and the experiences that you've had and challenges that you have had to respond to in life, that makes up who you are, Kelly's, and that makes up who I am.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. So what exactly affects one's mental health?
There's many factors. It can come in the form of bio. So, for example, your genetic makeup. Some persons, excuse me.
So we could inherit.
Yeah, some persons, they may be more prone to be experiencing a certain mental health challenge, such as depression, because it runs in the family. So knowing your mental health background of your family is a really good, it's something that you need to look into, because it would give you an idea of if you may be at high risk to face certain mental health disorders. So that's bio. There's also such things such as your lifestyle. So if you're a person that, you know, you're running down yourself, you're not getting enough rest, and you're not eating properly, and basically you're having a poor sleep and these things, it can also affect your mental health. Also relationships, if you're in a toxic relationship and you're constantly facing someone with narcissistic tendencies, and you're always being mentally abused, physically abused, emotionally abused, over time, a long period of time, that definitely is going to wear down on your mental health.
Right.
So there's so many factors: loss of your job, broken homes, childhood experiences, traumatic experiences. I can go on and on, Kelly.
In school.
Yeah,
Work.
school. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so many things
Right.
that can cause poor mental health. So I would say definitely those things can contribute to a poor quality of
Okay.
life. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say I experience some of those things. How do I identify when my mental health is not good at all, is poor?
Well, a good place to look at is the quality of your life. If the quality of your life, like I stated earlier, is like it's going downhill all the time, and I'm talking about the various areas. So your work life, your school life, your home life, your church life, you know, you're facing these continuous abusive
You're going through
situations
it,
and
yeah.
stress and hell. Let's get real. It feels like you're going through hell all the time. Then you're not functioning as you should.
Right.
And so that's a huge red flag that, yeah, right now your mental health is not at a place where it should be.
Okay, so what do we do when we feel like that?
When you feel like that, first of all, I would say the first step should be that you should admit that something isn't right, because a lot of persons, their friends and family members could see that something isn't right, but you know, they'll be like, I'm fine, I'm cool. And you're not.
Yeah, you're lying to yourself.
Yeah, you know, that denial, that refusal to admit that I need help, I'm not at a good place. I would say one of the the best things that you could do for yourself is to be able to admit that I'm not good, life isn't good. After that, then we can start to look at you becoming aware of exactly what challenges that you may be facing in particular. Right, put a name to it. So if you find yourself constantly crying and you know your appetite is fluctuating and even your sex drive, all these things, all these contributors, it's not good, then put a name to it. Google, let's get practical here. Use Google, type in some of these symptoms, look for legit pages like .org and .edu and these kind of legit pages that can give you information from professionals, and try to link and see if you can relate. So let's say that you finally did what I just said and you realize my symptoms sounds a little similar to anxiety.
Right.
When you have that name, you can always see a health professional.
Reach out to
yeah,
somebody
reach
like
out,
yourself.
Yeah, reach
Yeah.
out and let them know, okay, so I've thought about it. I admit this is how I feel. I don't feel good. I have XYZ symptoms and I don't know, it feels like I'm going through some anxiety. Can you give me some more info and, you know, explore it with that professional?
Should we talk to our friends, people in our lives? Let's say we can't afford the professionals like yourself. Like we know you guys are the best persons to go to, but what do we do when we can't afford you?
So again, we're going to be realistic. Sometimes it is expensive to go to a professional for 4 times for the month at a cost of $400 per hour session. There are other interventions that you can use in place of the professional help, at least in the meantime, right? So things such as having a support system around you. It's really helpful to know that you're not alone going through your trials and your challenges, and you have someone that they can do something as simple as being a listening ear. You know, having a person in your corner really helps you to go through this journey of, you know, your mental health challenges, educating yourself. I'm a big advocate of telling clients and potential clients, knowledge is power. I know we hear it all the time, but there's a reason why we say it all the time. The more knowledge you have on a particular topic that is affecting you, is the better it could help you put things in place in terms of seeking treatment and knowing who to turn to, and, you know, the steps that you should make. So I think even if you can't yet get to a professional, which is the ideal step, right?
Yes.
We know it's ideal. But we are talking about being practical for those of us who don't have the finances to get to that step. At least immediately, then strong support systems and education, not just for you, but also for your support system as well.
Right. Okay, got it. So we have a question through the anonymous channel. Why does the church most often disregard mental health issues? And I could attest to this because I've heard, and I posted a status like years ago. I think it was a tester, right? So who do I go to when, I'm feeling depressed? And somebody replied and there's like, Jesus. Now, guys, please, please, Jesus is, yes, always the answer. We agree. But you have to take a step further. Love is an action word, love is a doing word, and Jesus, from what I know in the Bible, did things. So you're hungry, he fed you. You're poor, he visiting you. He bringing, clothes or whatever. You need deliverance, you're getting deliverance. In addition to the prayer. So I would ask you, why does the church most often disregard mental health issues?
Well, I can't speak for the church on a whole because as I go around presenting, I have learned that different churches have different cultures. So there are actually some churches that, even if they are now beginning to do it, better late than never, right? They are now looking to pay more attention to our mental health or the church members' mental health. And this really came around, especially after COVID, that brought out a lot of things that are happening with families, right? I think also sometimes the church members, they merge mental health and spirituality in one.
So if you're saved, you should be in tip-top shape, mental health
Yeah,
wise. Yeah, just maybe because you didn't pray this morning, you're depressed. Or maybe you're anxious because you didn't pay your tithes.
So sometimes we merge the two worlds together, and therefore the solution to that is that just pray more and it would go away, or do more Bible study and it would go away. And while yes, praying and having your Bible study and connecting with God is always the foremost go-to and is always the best solution to anything in life. Like I stated earlier in the program, we are humans living in a sinful world.
Right.
And we have to be aware that we are going to face challenges while we're on earth. In fact, Christ said that, that we are going to face these challenges. Right? And I always say that persons don't realize that the Bible is already the best counselor that there is. And so God is also our best counselor. So why separate the two as if he wants nothing to do with hearing a person say that they feel suicidal, or that he would cast aside someone who is saying that they're depressed? I think that's an incorrect assessment of God. And we need to start merging the two worlds together and realize that just as you read in the text, that God is close to the brokenhearted and those who are crushed in spirit. That text already shows that he is so interested in persons who are having a hard time. And, he don't judge that just because they didn't pray this morning, then I'm not going to pay attention to you. Right? So it doesn't work that way with God. It may work that way with man, but it doesn't work that way with God. So, I think it's misconceptions, just to flow back to making sure I directly answer your question. I think it's a lot of misconceptions and not having enough knowledge on mental health that has made it seem as if that the church is basically disregarded. Either seem or the church is actually disregarding mental health.
Okay, all right. So we have a couple more. What if there is no one I could speak to? So we did encourage them to, if they can't afford professional help, to reach out to somebody in their circle. What if there's no one you can't speak to or aren't comfortable speaking to?
It's according to how I would look at the question, right? Because first of all, no one is an island. No one lives in a bubble. There is always going to be someone that you may turn to or could turn to, but maybe you don't immediately have access to, which is different. So, for example, humans are resources as well too that we can tap into. So as a social worker, what part of my job is that if I'm realizing that someone, when I work with children, so in this case I'm talking about children, right? But we can still use the example. If I realize that they need some sort of help in the form of a person to become a support system, whether it's mentally or financially or spiritually,
Right.
then I network with some sort of community or some sort of organization. And it's the same that the person can do as well too. If when you look around, you may not have a family member that is trustworthy or a friend, a support system doesn't necessarily have to be blood
Right.
or a close person. A support system can be as simple as there are some hotlines that you can call and call anonymously, and it's free, and you can speak to someone who will have at least enough training to guide you, or even if they don't have training to guide you per se, they listen. There are
Right.
actually persons that are set up
To listen.
to listen to a
Okay.
stranger
Okay.
talk about their issues or their heartaches and their disappointments. And the good thing about something like a hotline, this is just one example of a resource you can tap into, is that, like I said, it's free for those of you who have had bad experiences where you spoke about your story, you told your story to someone and they turned out to be not confidential
Not
and
trustworthy, yeah.
they gossiped, and you had that whole episode. Again, you have this hotline with someone you're not seeing them, they're not seeing you, and you can be a little more relaxed just in the space of your own home of speaking to this person. I've yet to hear, high negative talk about hotlines, not being good. I've yet to hear. I'm not saying
Okay.
it's not happening. I'm just saying I'm yet to hear.
To hear.
So that's something I would direct someone to who feels as
if they don't have.
Yeah.
And I just want to put a pin there and implore persons who are close to someone who might be experiencing mental health issues. You kind of get the feeling this person always sad, this person seems like they're going through a lot, they have a lot on their plate. Please reach out to them, establish a relationship. You can't just walk up to people and ask them their business, but establish a relationship with persons. And those of us who are in the church, if people come to you, please be trustworthy. If parents, if your children coming to you and telling you they're going through something, the answer is not always is because you're just on your phone or you're not doing what I tell you to do. That's not the answer at all, and we have to give our account for the persons that God has placed in our lives. So you have to be more intentional about building relationships even with the people in your circle and taking them seriously when you go through something, because you don't want that on the flip side you just end up with a letter from this person and they're gone, they're not here anymore, and you could have done something, So another question that someone sent in, and guys, continue to use the link. It's anonymous. We don't know who is sending, and it won't show up on the YouTube chat channel. So as professionals, how do you encourage boys to open up to getting help?
That's a good question as well, because I always say that when it comes to males, society has really stereotyped the male, in terms of the males seeing themselves a certain way. We don't realize how much conditioning we do from when they're babies, in terms of that they should be like this shell, this hard shell that's unbreakable, and that should not show emotions and all these things that is usually associated with being a female. Let me just put it that way. So I would say in terms of our boys, getting them to open up, I would say is, start small. If you didn't know before, didn't realize before that you were doing it incorrectly in terms of telling them things like be a man and don't be a sissy and sissies cry and all these talks that we say locally and think that it's helpful in getting our male to toughen up when it's actually going to be more damaging for them when they get into relationships and they actually need to show us females their emotional and caring side, right? It's never too late to realize when we've conditioned wrongly, and again, with education and knowledge, to be able to use that to know how to make the right steps and moves. So sit with your male, make a space for him whereby he can feel that, okay, let's start small, let's start over, and allow him, if he feels to speak. Right? You're talking about a boy, so let's go to that age of a little boy. So that's good. The age haven't gone so far that you can't now still undo. You know, because I'm assuming when you say boy below the age of 18, so between preteen and teen, you know, create the spaces. Create the spaces that you can be a safe person. Many times parents only look at professionals to do all the work, and they don't realize that a lot of the work begins with us. We have to be that safe person. Now, realize I didn't say we have to be the one that accept any and anything and, you know, so friendly that we bypass, you know, proper brought-ups and these things, but we have to be the safe person that they can turn to and talk to. Start practicing the child in expressing himself, you know, and not bottling it up as something that males don't show when they're hurt and whatnot. So start practicing and conditioning that whole, let's talk about it, you know. Find fun ways in which you can get the person to open up. So obviously maybe sitting on a chair and talking like this might be a little intimidating. It's like, okay, what's going on here? Yes, it might be awkward. So try being creative, you know, try utilizing what they like, such as sports, and simply showing up in the good times in their lives and reminding them that, okay, just as I'm showing up in the good times, remember to knock on me when it's the bad times. You know, so it might take baby steps, but they all add up and account for something. So
okay, and also, well, I would just add, if the guy, the boy, is a bit older, maybe speak to a male that he looks up to or can look up to, and have the male or the guy or the man speak to him, you know, like a one-on-one. Maybe a Saturday night they just go out.
Mentorship?
Mentorship. That's the word, mentorship. Unfortunately, we don't have a system in the church setup, a structured one, but it can happen informally, you know, as a guy just reach out to a younger fella. Or even if a mom is asking this question, just look for a male who he could look up to, that the person is not pretentious, you know, they're down to earth, they're cool, and they confidential is the most important part about it.
Well, two things I was going to say as I was listening to you, Kellys. I know you said that in church we don't really have it, but to me, I know that the what do you call that? The men's departments.
They have.
You know, we have the women's department.
Yeah,
and
the men's.
So the men's department, from as far as I remember and my knowledge of it, it's supposed to incorporate those things, that whole mentorship and, you know, because it's supposed to, the members of the men's department in a church is supposed to be, well, the men.
Right.
And even though I know the term, the title of it is men's department, it also includes the boys of the church as well too. Again, as far as I remember. So the men's department is something that we should definitely utilize
Leverage,
and not just put aside as, you know, it could actually be
they
really
do good work.
good
I think
for mentorship
recently
stuff
they
too.
had a hike in Aruka itself. So yeah, programs like that. You know, just reach out. And it could happen either way. If you know you're going through something and there is somebody you think you'd be comfortable speaking to, guys, go ahead and reach out to them. You know, it seems daunting at first, but just the first step is always the hardest. It gets easier from there, right? So another question that we have is, should I trust non-SDA professionals with my mental health issues? Is it safe to do that? Does the spirit of prophecy speak against opening up to non-believers?
Okay, so I did do some research into the spirit of prophecy, and what basically she was saying can become like a danger zone with non-believers or non-Christian. And when I say non-believers, I'm not just talking about Adventists, but persons who actually don't have a biblical foundation, is that, of course, they are going to be using a lot of secular interventions and things that might now create a conflict with your belief and following the ways of the world.
So ideally, you go to a believer.
I would say you go to a believer, right? Someone that they follow the Bible's foundation. Because at the end of the day, like I started the program saying, at the end of the day, what I always tell persons is, don't leave God out of your mental health journey.
Yeah.
I might become cliche saying this in the program over and over, but I'm saying it for a reason. Even with professionals, try to align yourself with professionals that have the foundation of God. Because, you know, mental health is just one aspect of who we are. At the end of the day, our main goal is heaven and to get ready for heaven and soul salvation. So mental health is one aspect of it. You want to make sure that you're going to be doing things that are aligned with what God's ideals for you are. Because like I said, the Bible is its own counselor. And what can keep you on track with the goal of, you know, heaven.
Yeah.
So another professional might say differently, but when it comes to me, I always say don't leave God out, and that includes the professional that you go to. Yeah.
Okay, agree.
Yeah.
Well, a question that might be similar, or the same topic, is I suffer with depression and suicidal thoughts and even tried getting some professional help, but I feel far from God. Most churches are not equipped.
Yeah. And first of all, I'm sorry that you're going through that. Really sorry, because as you rightly stated, most of our churches are not equipped to deal with these mental health struggles. If you're still going through it, like I said, you need to get professional help, definitely, because suicide is a whole other ball game. You know, because it may feel as if you're at an edge and at any moment the wind could blow and you're just going to get tipped over. So that's a whole other ball game when you reach that zone where life no longer interests you enough to stay, right? So I would definitely say if the church, in that case, we go to step 2. If the church, your particular church, I don't know what church you're going to. I don't have enough information, so I'm going to try here. If your particular church, let's say it's this church, Aruka, does not have a known mental health professional, you can get connection to professionals through a networking. The good thing is that even though each particular church may not have an individual professional, in the Adventist church we do have lots of mental health professionals.
You being one of them.
Myself being one of them, right? There's Rhonda in Tobago as well, who is a mental health professional. There's another colleague of mine, Cherise Lopez. She's more on the Toko end, who is also a mental health professional as well. We are here, right?
You just need to...
Yeah, you just need to connect with the right resources or the right persons to get on to us. I want to thank Khalees for programs like these, because this is making mental health professionals within the church known, so that you can afford to ask a question like that and get an answer, or at least be guided
and
to
be
where,
where
you can go. I was told, I have to look into it, I'll be honest, I didn't really get to follow it through, but I was told that we're supposed to have some sort of almost like a directory that is trying to be made with the conference in terms of where the different Yeah, with the
mental
different
health
right. You heard
professionals.
about it too, right?
No, but
So then, I think I heard about it through a pumpkin vine. I admit I haven't yet followed through to find out. But we can look into that as well too. Conference should have some sort of, if they don't, it will be really good. If they could have some sort of directory that they can list all of us Christian professionals together, so that you can have easier access if the person is not immediately within or from your home church.
okay.
Right?
So we have another question. What if the person that you can't escape is the cause of your sadness?
What if the person that
You can't escape is the reason you are sad.
so I don't have enough info on that
So
question.
I would assume, hopefully this is correct, and you could probably just edit the question if you want to. Let's say they're at home with the person, so it might be their mom or it might be their spouse. That person is making them
life hard for the person.
making life hard. Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me just make the disclaimer if we didn't make it before that I'm not here to give advice on individual issues. One, because as a counselor, we don't give advice, we make recommendations or suggestions.
Right.
First of all, with that disclaimer. Two, I would need way more information to really give you the best recommendation so that you can make the best steps for your particular situation. So I'm just going to be generalizing here and not directly answering to your situation, because I don't want you to make steps and then you say, but the counselor say do this. And that's why we say we don't give advice, right? But ideally, let's say you're dealing with somebody that's narcissistic. Of course, you're going to get steps from your therapist on how you respond and how to deal with your mental health challenges and to really heal you first. Because if you're going to be in this battle in the long haul, we first of all have to focus on you and how you've been responding. So whether you've been responding with, the depression that we spoke about before, the anxiety, self-harming, suicidal, it's going to be individual to you, and the counselor is going to explore your responses, and if it's unhealthy, they're going to give you some baby step goals to make or to do so that you can reach to a place where you're no longer responding unhealthily to your environment. Ideally, according to what you're facing in your environment, you should not stay in the environment. You should get out of it.
But if you can't.
If you can't, then I would tell a client then if you can't make a long-term goal, because we have short-term and long-term goals. If you can't make a long-term goal, reach that long-term goal of eventually getting out, which I would hope that you would say that's a goal that you would want, because you have to tell me, Kelly's the goal. I'm using you as an example.
Okay.
You have to tell me what you want, how you want me to guide you in counseling. What's your goal? So if your goal long-term is that, Kian, I want to get out, but that's long-term, so we're going to look at short-term first, then I would say, I would hope you'll tell me that your short-term goal would at least be, I want to stop crying. I want to stop hating myself because he makes me hate myself. Or I want to live and be happy. Then we're going to work on those small-term goals.
And then move up to the big
because
ones.
we want to, because we spoke about earlier that the quality of your life is always at the forefront we want to look at. We want to try as best as possible to get that quality to a place where you can function.
Right.
We want you to function. So that's something that you can possibly work on. Even if you can't leave the environment, work on how you respond to the person and to the environment.
Okay. So we had 3 more questions, but guys, we're running out of time, so we'll go back to the original list, and if we have time afterwards, we would come back to them, okay?
No problem.
Okay, so we want to move on to anxiety for a little. And me personally, I think I experience anxiety attacks because if I go into a real stressful time at work, there might be a day where my heart is beating really quickly and I feel like this tension in my throat and I have a fever and that has to be, I think, anxiety attack. So what is exactly an anxiety disorder? What is an anxiety disorder or panic attack? What's the difference, and what do they look and feel like in terms of symptoms?
All right, so I'm glad you're clarifying the anxiety disorder versus the panic attack. So they are different, and they are different because of the length and the intensity. So let's start with the panic attacks. So panic attacks, they're usually unexpected, and the symptoms are usually aggressive, and they last between 10 to 20 minutes per episode. At 10 minutes is when the severity of your symptoms really peak.
Okay.
So those symptoms can feel like, for a person going through a panic attack, that their heart is racing and pounding. They may feel as if you can't breathe, as if somebody is choking you. You can't get enough air into your lungs. 3, you may feel dizzy or nauseous. 4, it could be that you feel very hot or very cold. Some persons may even report that they feel numb. Right, and of course, also some persons go through disassociation.
Right.
So disassociation can happen in 2 forms. It can be depersonalization. That's just a fancy term to say that you feel as if you're not connected to your mind or your body.
Okay.
It's almost like you're watching a movie and it's someone else's life that you're watching moving around. And you don't feel that connection or control over your mind or your body. And then the derealization, which is also another type of disassociation, is when you feel as if you're not connected with your world or your environment. So you know how you're aware, Kelsey, that you're here, like here, planted here in Aruka, Kelly's in Aruka Church.
Right.
If you're going through derealization, you can't make that connection with your world and your environment. So that's what panic attacks can look like. Some persons report that they get panic attacks 2 to 3 times a day. Some may get it once a week. It varies according to the individual. You may not always have a link or direct cause to it, which is also not very good at all, because now it's just happening at you randomly, and that also can really make the fear even more pronounced, because it's like, okay, am I going to get an attack now? When am I going to get an attack? So that's what panic attacks look like. So that's an intense 20 minutes. If you feel as if it's more than 20 minutes, most likely you may be having a second attack. It's not supposed to go on like hours on end and these things. But it happens, and it can happen multiple times within a day.
Okay.
With the anxiety disorder, it's more of how you are responding to something within your environment and that is making you anxious. So you may more likely find that you can see a cause or a link with your anxiety and something. So for example, most of us, we experience the feelings of anxiety. That's part of being a human. So for example, you and I were here doing this podcast. If you have any challenges talking or speaking to the world, because we're on YouTube, you may have probably 15 minutes before the start of this program need to lock yourself in the bathroom because you're getting diarrhea, right? You can't control your bowels, right? Some persons, they may feel nauseous, right? Some persons, they may have these jittery feelings. They can't sit still for long. Different situations can bring out that anxious feeling. Public speaking, meeting new persons. Some persons say they have this social anxiety that they go through. They don't know how to
social settings. They're
they don't
not
know
really comfortable.
Exactly. And meeting potential companions. It's a long list. It differs for everyone. It becomes now a disorder. So that was just you being anxious, right? You have your on-off moments that you have to deal with and whatnot. It really becomes a disorder when it interferes with the way you function. function. So we're going back again to that red flag of functioning. If you can't function because now the anxiety symptoms are exaggerated so much so that you can't even step outside of your door because of these exaggerated fears, right? And now you can't go to work and you can't function in certain environments at all, then you're going into that category of, okay, it's a disorder. And that anxiety disorder can be ongoing for months on end, untreated, especially. It can really go on for a really long time.
Right, okay.
So so they sound pretty similar, don't they? Yeah, they do. The symptoms are pretty similar, but they have their few differences.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that case, what could I do in the moment, having experience either
of them, right? Because they're going to give similar symptoms of your heart racing and these things.
So,
in the moment, a lot of persons, some of the common symptoms that a lot of persons report is that whole heart racing and can't breathe. So some of the steps that professionals recommend are steps or strategies such as grounding strategies, and grounding strategies of a variety of steps that you can choose from. So you can choose, for example, to focus on your breathing, right? So you can try to get as much air into your lungs. I will give you an example. One of the best breathing techniques for anxiety and stress is said to be the pursed lip technique. So it's basically where you inhale through your nose. It's always recommended to more inhale through your nose, right? Because the way God created it, the nose is like a filter, right? So when you inhale, it could filter anything that,
impurities.
Yes. So it's always preferable to inhale through your nose, and then you can hold for, let's say, for 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And the pursed lip name comes because you purse your lips, and let's pretend you're going to blow out a candle, Kellys. So it's like...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So someone who is practicing this for the first time, it's recommended that they do at least 3 cycles and not more of that, because you don't want to, after a while get sleepy and kind of like get out of touch. So that's an example of what you can do in the moment. Focus on your breathing. Another thing you can do in the moment is focus on your environment. So take note of the trees around you, that your feet are on the ground.
Nature is really helpful.
Yeah, like,
for me, yeah.
Like tap if you have to, like, okay, I'm here, this is the chair, ground yourself into the moment of the things around you. And the last strategy from the grounding that I would mention here is there's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it's basically using your senses to help with the grounding experience. So they tell you that find 5 things that you hear, right? Probably 4 things that you see, and it goes down the line, 1 thing you can taste.
Okay.
Right? So they always say that it's some persons, when they realize that it's an ongoing battle they have with anxiety or panic attack, they walk around with little textures in their handbags or even something attached to them. Some persons might have a piece of lemon in their bag, because sucking on it, the sourness kind of jolts your senses too.
It takes your mind off.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, the grounding theory really speaks to distracting your mind from the negative or assumed thoughts that you're dying, which you get with panic attack, that you feel like you're dying and that you're getting a heart attack, and that you can't breathe. So anything that you can use to distract from that, could really be helpful in the moment.
Okay. Well, personally, I don't know if this would help anybody else, but what I do is I sing to myself, but hymns, right, or songs that relax me. So there's When Peace like a river. To myself, you might think I'm crazy, but it's just like I go into it and it's like, you close your eyes and you go somewhere quiet and you sing to yourself, or you recite a text. Even the one from today, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. So the Lord is close to me, and you over and over and you repeat it. There are other songs that I do as well. Pass Me Not So Gentle Savior, all of that. But those are, I don't know if it would work. Maybe you can try it.
Listen, the whole point is sometimes a structured method is not always the go-to. Sometimes you have to be unconventional. Once it's healthy
to you, and once it helps
and
you,
it helps you and
yeah.
it gets you out of that, assumed danger zone, then utilize it again. Once it's healthy and it actually works. Again, because it's all about distracting your mind, then do it, utilize it. That's fine. I also tell clients and potential clients that don't wait until you're in the moment to practice what you have learned in the therapy. So let's say we have discussed or explored the strategies, the grounding strategies, and I probably named some that I just told you. We will go with baby steps, and we will choose at least 1 to 3 to practice outside of attacks.
Okay.
So it's all about muscle memory and being that first thought go-to when the attacks come. So if you practice consistently your breathing, or you practice the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 methods regularly enough, when the anxiety or even the panic attack comes, it's the response, your body's response is quicker to get that thought to the front of your mind. Breathe. Because when you speak to a lot of persons, or you speak to some persons that are going through a panic attack or some sort of anxiety episode, they tell you, I can't think right now. I can't.
Yeah.
They let you know, okay, listen, right now.
No, it's
nothing.
not this time.
You're talking to me.
You're
talking to me, and it's like,
I can't hear you.
So one of the practice I try to tell clients and potential clients, therefore, let's be proactive and let's practice it so that when the moment comes, it's a really good go-to.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can move on to depression, right? So depression is a little bit of a tricky one for me, because one time I was really sad in secondary school, and I was like, I am so depressed. And my friend who was going to therapy for it was like, you are not depressed. Stop using that word so loosely. Whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool. So now I don't ever say I'm depressed, but what if I was? So what exactly constitutes depression? How do I know I am depressed?
I like that your friend, and again, you see, knowledge really is power, because your friend would have gone through learning with her therapist to differentiate
what it is.
She would have tried to pass on that knowledge to you and be careful to know the difference, right? Because having depressed feelings are feelings that we experience from time to time as humans, right? Again, once you're in this world, and it's a sinful world, so you're going to face death, you're going to face the loss of your job, and
failures.
Rejection, disappointments. We're always going to face it as humans, right? So you are going to have those periods where you naturally, because God created you that way, would respond feeling sad. And the whole water worked with the crying there, and feeling like not eating and can't sleep and worrying. You're gonna have those moments in your life. It's part of what makes you humans. But clinical depression, which is found in the DSM-5, it's an actual diagnosis.
Okay.
Yeah, and the thing with clinical depression, it's much more linked to a hormonal imbalance, again, something hereditary, and it's not as easily wiped away or swept under a rug as, say, my dog died. Not saying that your dog died, it's not a big deal, but my dog died, so I'm going to cry for 2 weeks, and I'm not going to get a puppy again because he's going to remind me of Frisky. When you're clinically depressed, I don't even always like to speak for persons who are depressed, because I am still learning that it has so many faces and so many shades. So I try to respect that, and I don't pretend that I know it all when it comes to depression, because so many varieties and shades to it. But just in a generalized nutshell, that sadness, that it's like an emptiness, a hollowness for some persons that they can't explain. So some persons, they isolate themselves from others. They don't want to see anyone. They don't want to speak to anyone. In some cases, it's not even that they don't want to. It's just that they don't have the strength. They don't have the energy to get up and do the routines. Something as simple as get up and using the toilets. Gonna get real. Getting up and brushing your hair. something that me and you, we will do it, right? They don't even have the energy to do that. And so, you reach the point where you can't take care of yourself at all in some cases.
Right.
And of course, you can't take care of your family members, right? That's the obvious signs of the depression reaching that clinical stage where it's definitely interfering with the quality of your life and your functioning. But I've also heard, and I'm also learning, that depression have a different face for some in terms of you dress all nice and expensive.
Yeah, and you smile.
You're blinging everything.
And you're making all the jokes.
You have a good husband. Your job is top of the line.
Everything perfect looking.
You're the life of the party. And then we hear that we hear that this person killed himself, and it's like, what happened? Did you see it? You saw the red flags? No, I didn't. They never said anything to anyone. They never sought professional help, at least known professional help, and it's like they went from this lively person to a shell, right? So there are some persons that are walking around or literally driving around in expensive vehicles and wearing the top of the line things, and you're telling yourself they could never be depressed, and you won't believe how depressed they are. Remember the Miss Universe?
Yes.
String of Miss Universe suicidal killings. I think it was like 2 within the same year. That was it.
During COVID, there was one. She was really pretty. I forgot her name. Real nice curly hair, gorgeous.
Yes.
And everybody was
well too, but
super surprised. And that's how real it could get. You could never guess.
And she's a beauty queen. So that's why I say when it comes to depression, I don't pretend to be a know-it-all. Or that you know everything about it, because there's always a new factor to consider. There's always a new case, or someone will let you know, hey, you're labeling that a depressed person should look like they're going through hell. And some of us, we don't look it, but that doesn't mean we aren't. So,
okay. So with that being said, how do you help someone who or you suspect is going through depression? And to add, I know there is such a thing as seasonal, and you would correct me if I'm wrong if it applies to Trinidadians, but there is such a thing as seasonal depression, or even like when your birthday coming up. Some persons might be really depressed around the time that their birthday or some event for them is happening. So how do you deal with it? How do you recognize it? Stuff like that.
Well, let's start on the seasonal depression versus the birthday, because the seasonal affective disorder, that's a SAD kind of thing. It's literally, the term came about literally because of persons their depression is tied to the seasons. So we don't have the 4 seasons like North America and these other countries, but according to the information on that type of depression, it's something that hits a person beginning at probably autumn, fall, and it continues into the gloomy looking type of season, such as winter and these things. So to say that we have it in Trinidad, that's something I'll have to do more research on, because that term has a specific connotation tied to it, to the 4 seasons and North America and whatnot. But I can answer to an event that we all experience or celebrate as humans. So birthdays and Christmases, depression, right? These are a more particular type of depressions. They are not actually found in the DSM-5, right? Depression is there,
DSM-5 is
the diagnostic manual, right? Statistical manual for mental disorders.
The professional.
Diagnostic statistical manual for mental disorders, right? It's a guide that helps professionals with diagnosing certain disorders and illnesses. So you more find like depression, you may not necessarily see, or I don't think it's there at all actually, terms such as Christmas depression and birthday depression. That's more individual.
They need to update the study then.
No, that's what I mean by, listen, the human mind is so complex. That manual, even if they try to update it for these newer terms, it still isn't going to be enough, because that's just the way it is with us as humans. There's always going to be something else new, and it might also be specifically just you, just for you, right?
Okay.
But there are known cases of persons experiencing depressions during what should be, a celebratory time of their life, like Christmas and Thanksgiving and birthdays. And what I would say, to answer the part 2 of that question, in terms of how do you help someone like that, make space for them, right? In terms of make yourself available to sit and listen, right? Allow the person to sit with their emotions. So if when it's coming nearer to birthdays, you realize that a week ahead, the person seems to be crying a lot and whatnot, make space for them to cry. Non-judgmentally on our part. Don't stop it. Let it happen. Right? Let them cry. If they're angry, okay, get it out. Put a name to your feelings. Let the person put a name to it. I feel angry around this time. Okay, we're not going to judge the person because they feel angry around this time. Just make that space whereby you just listen. Sometimes when we feel helpless and we don't know how to help someone, it's just good just to
let them.
Yeah. Let them make the steps first. Let them sit with the emotion and allow it to happen. That in itself is already the pathway to treatment and healing, that they have a space where they can not be expected or judged to, boy, why you ain't smiling? You're going to be 40.
Yeah.
My daughter died at 20. You should be glad. And, that's all guilty. No, non-judgmental. You're crying. It's a birthday. Okay, let's get it out. Allow
find out the reasons. It might be tied
if they allow you to.
Yeah.
If they feel safe enough with you, and they naturally, the way silence works, it's beautiful. Listening, the way it works.
Right.
I know it's tough. We all have to learn it as well too. But the way it works is that after a while, you're just being silent when you're thinking, I am doing nothing here. What is psychologist telling me? You won't realize that for that person, you're doing everything.
Right,
and
just listening.
Yeah, and after a while, they would feel like divulging, like they would talk on their own, they'll say something, and you might even learn more in the silence than the peppering of questions, Let the person know that, it's okay to not always be happy that your birthday coming. If you're not there yet, okay, you're not there yet. You don't have to follow your sister or your friends and have big parties and have all these whole attention, I don't want to say attention seeking, because I don't want to make it seem like those who do that attention seeking, but I'm just saying attention drawing, I should say, attention drawing types of events for your birthday. If for the person, they are okay with just sitting and staying at home and just being themselves, respect it.
Right.
As long as the behaviors are healthy, and it's not a concern in terms of, again, it's not interrupting their actual life, and it's not a red flag in terms of unhealthy practices, then let the person be. Let them be. Who knows, eventually they might be like, okay, I got this out. I think it's time to close that chapter. And I think I'm ready to
make new memories.
Make new memories. Make new traditions, because I finally addressed that chapter. And you won't believe, because of so many life experiences, childhood traumas and whatnot, how much that influences or impacts somebody's response to these celebratory events.
True.
So don't judge.
Don't judge, guys. Okay, well, we will go back. We're coming back rather to the anonymous questions, and then a little later to the end we'll address self-harm really quickly. Right? So someone asks, what is the connection between self-concept and willingness to seek help for mental health issues?
Okay. Well, the connection is there's something called insights. You could have good insight and you can have poor insight. So the connection with the self-concept is that if you have good insight, then you're mindful enough and aware that something isn't right. For me, something isn't feeling right, it isn't looking right. And this is just outside of persons telling you that as well. You, for yourself, you have been mindful enough of your feelings and your emotions to realize I'm not responding well.
Yeah.
And that having that good insight, it really has shown to be positive in helping you make healthy decisions, such as if I'm not feeling good, then it means that let me think, do I want to continue feeling bad? Do I want to continue in this downward spiral? And with good insight, if the answer is no, I don't like feeling like that, then the other question you may ask yourself is, so what am I going to do about it? So you see that prompting, it's like a kind of prompting you're doing with yourself. That it has been shown that good insight really does lead to you making good decisions in terms of seeking help or finding a way to fix.
So it's all about knowing.
Yeah. That's self-awareness. And now the thing is, like I said, there's good insight and there's poor insight. So let's flip it. Somebody with poor insight, they're not seeing it. They can't see that they are on a downward spiral. You can shout it out to the rooftops or to the mountains, and for them it's like, I don't see what you're talking about.
Yeah, because they're so down. They're just probably occupied with going through it.
No, not just that. It gets even deeper than that.
Oh,
they
okay.
literally can't see it. They can't.
Okay. So life just
They
beating
can't,
them.
they can't connect it. They
and
can't
they just
connect.
stay.
For
Okay.
example, they can't connect that you're so toxic that you're damaging all these relationships around you.
Okay.
And your spouse is telling you, your friends are telling you, your co-workers are telling you, and you're not seeing it as like, no, it's almost normal. That's a dangerous place to be, because when you're there, then you won't see how much you're affecting the lives of others and also yourself, and you won't feel like you need to then make the necessary steps to seek help. So a lot of persons out there that you're saying, but I tell you, go and get help long time, and he just one of the things they have to look at is, do they have proper insight? And if they don't, that's kind of hard to help somebody that they just can't see it.
So do you leave them, or?
I mean, it's just like with the AAA. If you're going to AAA, they try to make sure that the first step you do is admit. Acknowledge and admit that you need help. Because if you can't do that, obviously all these strategies we're going to teach you or discuss with you, it's going to go through one ear and come to the other, because you're going to feel like that's not for me.
Okay.
I cool. So I always say, personally, it's really hard to work with someone that can't see that they need help, and you're going to be hitting a wall. You're going to be hitting a brick wall. Yeah.
Okay. Well, these last ones, we could do them really quickly.
Sure, no problem.
That time is fast approaching.
It's passing so quickly.
Yeah. That's why we have a part 2. Maybe we need a part 3. Okay. Some say that I have a short fuse, but that's because I don't put up with stupidness at home, work, or friends. How can I get people to understand or leave me alone?
Okay, so again, just like the question before, I don't know the full the full framework of it, so I want to be careful, but I'm going to generalize. 2 things could happen. If more than one person are telling you that you have a short fuse, I would say don't necessarily ignore.
Yeah.
Catch me?
Yeah.
Don't.
They might be onto something.
This is the whole insight I just mentioned.
Yeah, okay.
Sometimes we don't see things because we normalize it or we don't see an issue with it. But a good measure is that different areas of your life, if you put yourself in different areas, whether it's church, school, home, if you're getting the same repeated message, short fuse, and some of them are people who are not close to you, they're not your blood, but they have brought it to your attention, I would say don't necessarily totally sweep it under a rug. This is part of being mindful of self. This is where you reflect and you ask yourself questions as well. So
yeah,
put your
sometimes it's not what happens to you, but how you deal with it.
Yeah.
So maybe, yes, everybody is annoying and irritating.
Yeah.
But maybe you could choose to ignore, or maybe you could just deal with it in a better way where they wouldn't trigger you as easily. Because once somebody aware that they're triggering you, trust me, I know, they will do it over and over and over, and you don't want to be triggered so often. Something could go wrong, you know?
Right. So I would say that the first step is, being self-aware of it, one, and two, also noting your response as well. My trail of thought literally just went out the window there, I just had it in my mind. But basically, I know for sure I wanted to tell the person to really get some awareness, be mindful of how they're responding as well. And if naturally you're a person that, you respond a particular way to a situation, just be mindful of how it's coming across. It's okay to have boundaries. Nothing at all is wrong with having boundaries of what you would tolerate and you won't tolerate. But it's always good to recognize and acknowledge how we're impacting others with our words and whatnot. Because many of us may have gone through a home where that short fuse thing, it wasn't even called a short fuse, it was just called letting it out. Put it on the table. But even I have learned that not every situation you can respond the same, and that some of the things that we have learned from our brought-ups, they need to be unlearned. Right? So, yeah.
So
I'm sorry that my I had more to say to that person on it, but I don't know, just now I just had a little moment.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And then even if, guys, we don't get to your question, and even if you have more to add and you want to speak to Kian directly, we'll give you her Instagram handle at the end so you could reach out directly. And even if you want to book some sessions with her. Okay. So moving on really quickly.
No problem.
I can't afford professional help, and the help center, doctors or counselors don't discuss God. They just put you on meds.
Yeah. I guess that's more of a statement than a question. And agreed, it does happen. Is there something else it said? And you're unable to get.
Oh gosh.
Are we reading the same question?
No,
okay, sorry.
They don't discuss God. I think that's what it was.
So they're acknowledging as well that they don't discuss
what
God.
We were saying before,
Yes, all right.
Okay. So another one, is there a limit to how much you tell someone who you trust that you don't? Is there a limit to how much you tell someone so that you don't overburden them?
I would say yes, it's according to who you speak to. And let me go slow with this one. Why I would say yes, it's according to who you speak to. Certain things that we go through, not everyone is equipped to handle it. Even if they say, let me be your shoulder, the shoulder you can lean on, right? It's very, it takes a lot to be that standing in the gap for a person. And especially when you're not trained, you won't know how to not take that person's emotions and stuff and make it yours. Yeah, so it's really... We have to understand. I think if we all acknowledge that, you said it earlier with something else you were saying, so I'm going to bring it in. If we all acknowledge that God has given different persons different gifts and abilities and opportunities to be trained a particular way, acknowledging that can really help discern who we tell things to and how much we tell that person. Because, for example, a family member, right? They're your family and they say, you could tell me anything, it's okay and whatnot and whatnot. And let's say you begin to tell them about how much you were being abused sexually as a kid by the neighbor. That's a lot to take in for a person that isn't trained. And yes, they're your blood and they want to be there, but remember, because they're not trained to be able to know, to tell themselves, okay, I need to I need to take self-care moments for myself, so I'm ready for you.
Back, yeah.
And I need to debrief with a senior professional, which is what professionals do, therapists do, because we're all humans. So we need to,
so you guys also...
We need to have the debriefing and we need to have the self-care moments, right, to get back in the battle with you, because, you know, we're with you in that battle. An ordinary person won't really know that those are things that they need to do, and they might just take all these.
And they're not able to.
That's why there's secondary trauma.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so you're telling me your stuff, and now it's like
affecting
me a lot, secondary trauma, yeah.
So what I've found to you, person who asked the question, in my personal experience, sometimes I ask beforehand, I have something I need, you know, to get off my chest. Are you in the mental space to receive it? Or are you okay? I have something, you know, I need to say, and hopefully the person, and you could let them know that they can't be honest, now is really not a good time, you know, maybe they might be going through something. And then also people kind of let you know when they're not really in the frame of mind.
Some people.
You might be and then sometimes it happens after the fact, so you tell them and they say lol. You know, like I just told you my life is in your hands. For 10 minutes straight I was telling you, and you just say, wow, that's crazy. That person probably wasn't the right person, and they maybe don't have the capacity to hold what you have to give them. So maybe look for somebody else, or maybe give them space and then come back. And yeah, it might not be that they don't want to, it's just that they're not able to at this moment.
And it's better for the person to admit, the person meaning the one who is listening, to admit that they can't be a hero for you
right now or at all.
Know, it's and even the one who wants to talk, you know, we have to be careful not to be angry at that person for not being there in that regard. If they're honest enough to tell us, I can't be there, because like I said, it can be a lot, and it's not going to be a one-time event. They have to become that standing in the gap person. So it's going to be possibly a little more continuous episodes or sessions of this sharing and whatnot. And not everyone is trained and equipped for that. So that's being aware.
So just two more that we have. What if you are being bullied by your peers for being with someone they don't like, which causes you to leave the persons and you are unable to get over it? Really quickly before she says, I have something I say usually. So for females, because I am one, so my experience is only that one. If your friends don't approve, if there is not something morally wrong, as in their values don't align with yours and they could potentially harm you, if your friends don't approve, maybe it's for their looks, or maybe, I don't know, they're not really
status or have the
whatever. Who cares? I have a saying. I say, that's why I like him, not you. You know, you don't have to. I do. So, yes, your friends should look out for you, but evaluate the next time. Evaluate what is the basis. Like, what are they telling you is the cause? This person ugly? No, that's not valid. You know, some things are not valid enough reasons to end a relationship. And unfortunately, if you're unable to get over it, maybe you need to apologize to the person that you might have hurt, your ex, and maybe to your friends you need to let them know, I'm not taking your advice anymore, especially if it is not found on really solid
or valid reasons.
Or valid, come on, you know, the person is wear baggy pants, please just ignore them, ignore your friends, right? Sometimes they mean well, and sometimes it might just be that they're not as mature enough to accept, or they don't see what you see in the person. So the next time, you definitely should evaluate first. And maybe I would say, I don't know if you could get the person back, maybe not, but they definitely deserve an apology and a reason.
I would also add that just looking at the way it's written, that they're saying that their peers are bullying them.
Oh.
That's the first thing that actually caught my attention.
Right, okay.
Your peers bullying you.
Come on, guys.
That's alone. That type of relationship. So we're not talking about your romantic relationship now. We're talking about, that friendship. That's not healthy.
At all.
Right? That's not healthy. And you really have to look at to see how much your friends dictate who you see, who you don't see, who you should be with, something along the lines of what you're saying. That's a little, that's not too good either at all, that you are going to be bullied or forced to do something that you don't want to do either. So you need to reevaluate the friends you have around you. And as Khalees said, you need to also assess the relationship, and outside of your friends' thoughts and opinions, you need to explore and ask yourself, was there anything necessarily wrong with it, or was it just superficial,
Some reasons are valid and some aren't, and you just need to figure out if,
because I'm thinking that if the friends really care for you, and let's say now, it's always also good to take into consideration true friends who have your back, what they may be seeing. And some friends really do see red flags before we do, right? Because sometimes you're so in love and head over heels that you don't realize. So that's why I would pay attention to how they are helping you.
Right.
If they're true friends.
If they are true friends, that's the key word. And last question we have, how effective can females be when bringing up boys? Females outnumber men in church. Can this imbalance be the cause of mental health problems regarding boys?
Okay, let's read that over. So how effective can females be
when bringing up boys?
When bringing up means like raising boys?
Yeah.
Females outnumber men in the church. Can this imbalance be the cause of mental health problems in boys? It does not really have a link per se, in terms of research-wise, with a mother bringing up males and that male going on to have mental health disorders, right? At least not a known link that I can think of at the top of my mind, because ideally we know that God created the family to be mother and father raising a child together in love, and under his guidance. But we know that practically we are living in a broken world with broken systems, and there are mothers who have to step in when fathers don't, right? And there are many mothers who do a very good job, actually, even without the fathers, because one of the things that Spirit of Prophecy Adventist Home always advocates is that we as mothers, when we put our burdens to God, and burdens meaning even being a parent, and when we admit that, God, you alone need to guide, because I don't know how to deal with this situation, or I don't know how to fix it, God does answer us, and he does step in for us. So even if you don't have a male figure there to help with the raising of your male children, and you're single mother, you can still raise respectable, upstanding citizens, soon to be probably the best fathers out there, even if you're a single mother, because you're going with God. You're walking with God. You're going through the journey with God, and he will never fail you in that aspect, because you reached out to him and let him know, you take charge. The flip side, of course, is, there are mothers who they won't ready to be alone in raising the child, because there are so many different cases of why persons become single parents, right? So there's so much we can talk about, but just generally, unfortunately, there are mothers that they are just biological mothers. They are not truly role model mothers, and that's why we have so many men as well having mother issues and women issues and these things. So it can go both ways, actually. But to say that there's a particular link between females bringing up boys and there being a cause to mental health problems with these boys, I haven't seen research really
well, what I would say, I don't have much experience, if any at all, but we did touch on it earlier, and we said maybe introduce the boys to men who you trust and who have good upstanding values, who share values and who they can look up to. So they have a family, maybe they have a good job and they're very passionate about life and they love the Lord. Try to introduce the boys to these men and have them have a one-on-one relationship.
Good idea.
Maybe outside of you eventually, and so that they could this person could kind of bridge the gap. I guess they won't be the perfect person because ideally there should be a father, but sometimes fathers are there and they're really not effective. So so this person could probably help, with the single mother bringing up the boy.
Yeah.
So
That's a good alternative as well,
yes.
too, actually. Yeah.
Okay, and our last topic, we breezing it real quick, guys.
We're just touching and going on this one.
Touch and go, yeah. Self-harm. So we want to know, there are a lot of persons who hide it for good reason or not. From what I know, they might cut with a razor blade or stuff like that, or even with a knife, as we saw in the promo. A lot of persons they turn to self-harm to express or kind of take away the pain of what they are going through.
The mental and emotional pain.
So what advice? I know you said you don't really give advice.
What suggestions?
Yes, what suggestions would you give to a friend of or even someone who is practicing self-harm?
In particular, someone who is doing it or a friend of someone who is doing it?
So maybe one and then the other.
To the friend that is aware that their friend or even a family member is doing the self-harm, same thing that I stated earlier with, I think that was with the birthday depression and stuff, making that space. It's really important when we can become a safe person and create safe spaces for persons to basically show us their vulnerable side and to show us their struggle. And we need to respect that. I always say when you invite me into your zone, into your space of what you're going through, we need to respect that and not, the first thing we do is, you're mad? And only mad people just cut and say all sorts of derogatory things that could just totally push the person away
from you.
Yeah, away from you and way further into the negativity that they're struggling with. So creating a safe space, being non-judgmental, allowing the person to express themselves, because really and truly they are cutting because they're trying to express themselves. They're trying to get something out that they probably can't form with their words, but they know that the pain, the mental and emotional pain is so painful that they need to get it out somehow. And the thing with self-harm, which is also known as non-suicidal self-injury, is that a lot of persons judge self-harmers as persons who are either suicidal or they judge them as persons who, where's the big deal?
Yeah.
Getting stabbed is worse than words, right? We do that. It's like,
words,
so because, right, exactly. I tell persons that term, that statement, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can't do me anything.
Words cut deep.
Let's throw that out the window, please. Let's
words
fling it out the window. Yeah. Because words can really be even more harmful on our psyche than if you slap me.
Because the marks could heal, the bruises.
Exactly, I always say that.
Sometimes that carries
those
on for
words.
life.
Like I just quickly, I know we're trying to touch and go. I watched this YouTube video where a person was walking around and he was asking adults, what's the worst thing someone ever said to you? You see that video? You would be amazed that these adults, some of them in their 40s and their 30s, could still recall as if it was yesterday that somebody on the playground used racial terms towards them, or that a teacher said that they will never amount to anything and they will never be anything in life,
or that
parents or peers, they brought up what amazed me is that they didn't bring up so much what someone said in their adult life, but they all went back to that childhood memory.
Yeah.
And that I just want to end that self-harm touch and go talk with. That's to show you the power of words and how it affects us emotionally, and that even though we could put a bandage, we can bandage a wound, or we could put a band-aid on a cut, words, if we don't address how much words affect us, we tend to see that some persons find, they have to find an outlet. So some persons self-harm, and self-harm isn't just cutting, you can also be self-destructive as well too. So you can blatantly put yourself in risky situations sexually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, blatantly put yourself in risky situations, knowing that this person might have some sort of STI. You can also get into drugs and alcohol. Again, you're on a self-destructive path. All that incorporates a self-harmer's
cause accidents.
Yeah, anything that that could really express or get out these negative feelings. It really isn't a pretty experience at all, and it should not be taken lightly. That with a big deal. Don't ever say that to a self-harmer, please, especially when they finally reveal to you their scars. Yeah.
Okay, so that's about it for the questions, guys. I want to encourage you to reach out to Kian. Give us your Instagram.
On my Instagram, it's k.s.john, which is basically my initials of my first and middle name, Kian Strong John. Right, and you can reach out to me in the messenger box of Instagram. If it is that you would like me to help you along, that's fine as well too. Even my Facebook, you can also reach out. Again, messenger on Facebook, that's fine. And I love what I do. I'm a mental health advocate, and first and foremost, I love bringing God into these spaces. I try not to at all ever make the mistake of leaving him out of our mental health journeys.
Amen. And with that, we'll go to a special and then we'll come back for our closing remarks and pray.
So sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take him at his word, just to rest upon his promise, just to thus saith the Lord.
Oh, how sweet to trust in Jesus, just to trust his cleansing blood, and in simple faith to plunge me neath the healing cleansing flood.
Jesus, Jesus, how I've trusted him, how I've proved him more and more. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust him more.
Trust him more.
Yes, it's sweet to trust in Jesus, just from sin and self to sin.
Just from Jesus, simply taking life and rest and joy and peace.
Jesus, Jesus, how I trust him, how I prove him more and more. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust him more. Oh, I trust him, oh, I trust him, oh, I trust him, trust him more. Oh, I trust him, oh, I trust him, oh, I trust him, trust him more. Oh, I trust him, oh, I trust him, oh, I
Okay, guys, we are back, and unfortunately, we are to the end. I just want to highlight that we appreciate the questions that we got, and
We do.
let me know if, and let us know even anybody that you know in Aruka, maybe even comment in the chat if you don't know anyone, any mental health topics or any other topic ideas that you'd like to see us cover in the upcoming AYs. It would be greatly appreciated, and we will get to them. So once again, thanks so much for the questions. I hope that we answered them really well. If not, feel free to reach out to Kian at
k.s.jan
on Instagram, and she would address it as best as she could, I am sure. And she is the professional here, so I vouch for her. So don't forget, guys, there is a part 2 to this program. Next week we'll be dealing with the food that we eat and the things that we do and think about that could affect our mental health. Yes, there is a connection. So the name of the program will be Mental Health Roll Call, the Food, Mind, and Body Effect. Guys, so one more time, mental health roll call, the food, mind, and body effect. It would be at the same time, same YouTube. If you guys want, we could even open it up so you could come in person and ask your questions in person, and we would have another professional who deals with that as well. So, we have one more announcement. The youth night is Aruka Church is having a youth night. It is carded for Thursday, the 23rd of March. It's online, and it's being facilitated by the Family Life Department. Youth, we want to hear from you. Please indicate the topics you'd like to be considered for the discussion. Then tune in Thursday, the 23rd of March, where guest presenters will facilitate and answer your questions. This is Youth Night. So it comes really good timing right on the heels of this program. If you have any similar questions or not similar at all, feel free to reach out to us, and you would see the flyer and the link coming around. Tune in to our morning services. You might be able to get some more information there as well. Okay, so without further ado, we'll have the closing prayer by Kian.
No problem. All right. Just before we pray, I wanted to say thank you for the invitation, Khalees, to be here. It's always a privilege where I can come and share knowledge. I love to share. I love to talk about God. So I really appreciate this invitation into your space.
No problem, no problem.
Right. So let's pray as we close off the Sabbath and also this program. Dear kind and loving Father, we want to thank you so much for this opportunity whereby we can bring you into our cares and our burdens and our stresses of life. We want to thank you that we have a God that we can turn to. You are still the great healer. You are still the main counselor. You are still the one that knows every hair on our head, and you understand how our minds work, and you know what we are going through in this journey of our mental health. And so, oh God, let us never forsake tapping into that source of strength, you know, because you said that when we are weak in you, we can be strong. And so this evening, as we close this program, I pray for every head that is bowed while I pray, even though they're at home. I may not see their faces, but you know their faces and you know their needs. And so, oh God, I pray that you would guide them with your spirit of truth, guide them to the right professionals, guide them to the right, support systems, and, just be there for them in their valley and in their storms and in whatever fire that they may be experiencing. So I thank you, oh God, for hearing and answering our prayers and for always being there for us. This is my prayer in your name. Amen.
Amen and amen. Thanks again for coming, for tuning in, guys. Once again, I want to invite you to the program next week, Mental Health Roll Call, the Food, Mind, and Body Effect. Have a good week ahead, and always remember that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those of a crushed spirit.
Amen.
Good night.
Good night.